I think because there is still this narrative that high sensitivity is seen as a weakness, and either people think by themselves, I'm not good for leadership because I'm highly sensitive and because I'm weak, which is not a true equation.
Not true, yeah.
Exactly. So this is my point. I really want to raise awareness about high sensitivity and also go maybe to companies and do webinars or workshops just to raise that awareness and make people understand that we need to respect our diversities and to leverage whatever the diversity is bringing up for us.
Welcome to the Coachability Code podcast. This is your host, Jordan Ring. Coaches, you ready to be coached? Let's go. All right, everyone. Thanks for joining for another episode of this podcast. Today, I have another very special guest, Anna, with me today. Anna, thank you so much for coming on the podcast, and just thank you so much for your time. And if you could introduce yourself briefly for the audience here, that'd be great.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here. So I'm Anna Moretti. I'm a former leader in pharmaceutical companies, transitioned very recently into coaching. And so now I support highly sensitive women in leadership through my coaching programs.
And what kind of a coach are you? What is your title? I see it on LinkedIn, but is it the leadership coach for highly sensitive women?
Yes, absolutely.
And let me just ask real quick, how did you come to that title for yourself? One of the things I like on this podcast is I have coaches from a variety of different areas.
Yeah.
And I have not had I've had leadership coaches on here, but not leadership coach for highly sensitive women. So I always think it's so cool and also interesting just to talk about how people found their way into that, into the title, but also into doing what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is tied very much to my own personal story and experience because I said I've been a leader in pharmaceutical industry for more than 20 years. And so I have a background in leadership, and this is explaining the leadership part of my coaching. But then only a year and a half ago, I realized that I am a highly sensitive person. And I didn't know absolutely anything about high sensitivity before. And so when I discovered that trait, I started digging deep into what it is about. And at that point, something clicked. And I said, oh my God, I need to support women like myself because I realized, looking back in my experience, how much I've been struggling in the corporate world, being highly sensitive and being in leadership position and being completely disconnected from my high sensitivity.
Mm-hmm.
And so my mission is really about bringing more awareness in general about high sensitivity so that also, corporate organizations and companies, they know what it is and how many of their employees might have this trait, because according to the research, is almost 30% of the population. So it's quite a high
Oh, that's more than I
number.
expected. Okay, yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
And so I felt like I really want to raise awareness and I really want to support women in leadership, not because high sensitivity is specific to women, but because I still see a gender gap in leadership. So this is why I decided to go with leadership coach for highly sensitive women.
Amazing. And if you could think of one, and this could expand into your career in pharmaceuticals as well, but what's a belief you held early in your coaching career, that maybe now you've changed and shifted and, if not completely reversed, like have had different thoughts on?
Yeah. So I have to say, I approached coaching while I was still, in corporate. And particularly in one of the companies I've been working for, coaching was really sponsored as a tool for people leader, for managers to support their team members, for the development of the individuals, right? But there, the final goal has always been more toward the performance. So the goal was to improve and increase people performance. And then I decided to take an independent training. So not the ones offered in coaching, not the ones offered by my company, but something ICF certified, and there I discover, coaching more as a way to develop yourself, but also in a spirit, much more in a spiritual sense. So like following your own sense of purpose and discover, your next level of consciousness. So different ways of living your life. And so this is, I would say, much broader than the definition of coaching that I have learned in the
Hmm.
beginning,
Yeah.
in corporate. So this is one thing that comes to mind. But another one, if I think back at the early days in my coaching training, I think I was really looking for the right questions. Like, this list or checklist of open-ended questions.
Yeah.
And I was really like preparing my next question while having a coaching session with a client. I was really thinking, okay, what's my next question now? And I would prepare, the
Hmm.
next one and then the next one. And now I completely reversed this. So I'm not preparing any question anymore, and I'm just much more on the presence and
Hmm.
active listening side of the coaching. So whatever wants to emerge for the client in that very moment, I'm there to welcome it. And then if a question is needed, the question will come up. But I do not need to think about the questions in advance or have a checklist of questions that through my 1 hour session I need to ask this, and that. No way. While in the beginning, I remember, I was very much focusing on those questions.
Yeah, it's so interesting that you say that because that's something I've had to learn to do better with this podcast, but also like with my interviewing with the people that I work with on their books. I used to be more like you were saying of like, oh, I need to get to these questions that I have listed out. But now I've been like very similar to what you're saying. Like, I try to be as in the moment as I can. I try to do this on the podcast too, but just to see where people are going with the conversation. And yeah, I can poke and prod and lead. That's kind of what I'm supposed to be doing when I'm interviewing people on this, and also like for what I do for books. But it's also it's so important to be present, to be listening, and to go where their like energy is and what they're thinking about and what they're passionate about. It's like you never want to cut someone away from if they have like a good train of thought going. You want to keep that going versus almost like what we talked about before we jumped on the podcast. It's like, and I don't want to cut you off if there's something interesting that you want to say, right? Like, and I think if you get too stuck to process, then that can happen as you miss out.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's really about picking up on the clues that the person is just, showing you, and could be body language, could be what they are saying, but also, subtle signs like the energy level or something in their facial expression that is changing. And so, really, as you said, being fully present, you allow yourself to pick on those clues, and then whatever comes next will emerge, like if it's a question, if it's just a silence to hold for the client, whatever it is.
What is unique about highly sensitive people? One that you really like to work with, but also what are the unique challenges with having those conversations? Because it's a very unique kind of niche to talk to, and it's bigger than I thought. If you said 30% of the population, I mean that's
Mm.
incredible. Yeah. So I really what I'm asking is, what about it do you enjoy, and then what are the struggles with being in the moment, having those conversations, and
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So one thing that I definitely enjoy is that the depth of processing. So highly sensitive people have a special way to go really, really deep in their reasoning. And they are very analytical, and they can connect the dots among very different things, also things that apparently are not connected among themselves. So this
Hmm.
is something that I really like, because this is how my brain operates. So there is reciprocity, when you are with someone who thinks the same way that you think. It's not about the content, it's about how your brain is processing things.
Hmm. Hmm.
So this, I like it very much. The challenges, I think, and especially clients that are coming to me, is because maybe they have been disconnected from their sensitivity. So they are facing themselves quite some challenges in terms of overwhelm that could be cognitive overwhelm or even emotional overwhelm. And this is something that we can work, and this is the basis of my work with my clients, because the first thing is, yes, awareness of the trait, but also the ability to regulate their emotions,
Hmm.
and the nervous system regulation is fundamental. Otherwise, you, as a highly sensitive person, you just live in a chaotic environment, like your mental and emotional environment is
Hmm.
super chaotic, and you can get overwhelmed very easily.
And so my next question really was looking at what your primary offer is. Would you say that some of the first sessions that you're working with clients on is tackling what you were just saying and being aware of it and regulating it? And
So I created a framework which is quite flexible in the sense that I'm working with clients one on one. So of course I can totally tailor and adapt the framework to what the client is
okay.
bringing. But just to give you an idea, in the framework I identified 5 modules, and the one about the emotional regulation is the second one. While in the first one, so the very first module is about awareness on high sensitivity, because there is something that you should know about how your brain operates, and all the characteristics of this trait. I think it's important to have this awareness first. And then it's also about self awareness in terms of your values, and your level of self care is also very important for highly sensitive people,
Hmm.
because usually we tend to support others and to fulfill other people's needs. And we're not very good at looking at our own needs. So this is something that I need to tackle first with my clients, so that they become able to identify their own needs, and could be emotional needs, or mental needs, or physical needs, and then being able to fulfill those needs by themselves, either by themselves or asking for help, but taking care of their own needs. So this is the basic and the module one. And then we go into the emotional and nervous system regulation, and then the framework goes on with the other modules. But I don't know if I want to explain everything now.
Hmm. That's okay. No, I was just curious as like really like what the question there was, and you answered that. I believe like what brings people to you. Is it that they're already aware they're highly sensitive and they're like, oh, I need a system for figuring out how to navigate life and everything with knowing that, or when they're coming to you, when they're first like talking to you, what are their kind of, if they would say what are their problems and what are they like struggling with that they say, okay, I actually really need a coach for this
Yeah.
area.
Yeah. So usually, and because my target is women in leadership position,
Hmm.
most of them they are struggling with, and maybe they are people leader, and they struggle with the absorbing all the emotions from their team members. So this is one of the main pain points that I'm
Yeah.
seeing, that they are fully supportive of them. They are very appreciated by their team members. They are wonderful in creating psychological safety for the entire team. But at the end of the day, the cost for them is super high. That they are not able to detach from all the emotions that they have absorbed along the way and along the day. And so they really need to get some support for that. So this is one of the main pain point that I'm seeing.
Yeah.
Emotional burden
Hmm.
coming from being a people leader.
Yeah, because I imagine that would be stressful and there's a lot of a burden there. Anna, what would you say separates the women and the leaders who you work with that get a lot out of what you do versus the ones that maybe don't get as much or don't see as much from it?
Thinking about, if I got anyone that was not like super happy or
Yeah.
not, I think in general, highly sensitive people, as said before, they tend to go very deep. And so, for example, Usually, my coaching engagements are pretty long. So my framework is supposed to last for it's a 1 year transformation
Okay.
journey.
Okay.
So it gives enough time for people, to process things at their own pace. So we are not expecting to see results and to fix everything in 1 or 2 months.
Hmm.
It's a, it's a deeper process, and there are people that they come already quite aware of their sensitivity, and then you can see results faster, I would say. And other may be that they need more time in the beginning to get familiar with the concept and with the idea and really come to that realization. I am highly sensitive. My brain works differently than I thought.
Hmm.
And and this is really shift that they need to make, because very often they may have been hiding their sensitivity or masking or adapting so much to the external environment and to the expectations coming from already from their family in maybe early childhood, or then in from school or from society or from the working environment. All this adaptation process made the disconnection, from their sensitivity. So they need some time to regain that connection, and could take a little while, and it's very personal.
Yeah. And let me just say, I think it's great that you jump in and say, this is going to take a while. This is going to take a year of time. I see it on LinkedIn all the time and other places like, oh, 30-day transformation, or like what I see is like a write your book in a few months. People will jump into my comments and say, Jordan, there's like no reason to take like 6 months to a year to write your book. And I'm like, you're wrong. It just is like, it takes time to see transformation. And I think in a fast moving pace that we have in the culture we have, like across the world, it's like we need to get this done quickly. But I love that you're like, no, it's good. This is a year-long transformation, because that's where the real change is going to happen. I like that you have that as the process, because it's very refreshing. That's all.
Yeah, and I think it's anyway lifelong journey. So
Yeah.
even after the year that we have been working together, they still need to move on their own, and keep going. And very often the progress comes in like in circles. So you need to go over and over again the same
Hmm.
things. And for example, with my clients, in the first modules, we look at the values and the self-care practices and the way that they are able to self-regulate. And then we also look at the strength that the high sensitivity can bring, and how can they leverage, those as a strategic asset in leadership. And these are basically the first three modules. But then here comes the interesting part. So when you think you are done, that everything is clear, then you put yourself outside in the world, and you go back into relationship like at work or even private relationship, and you can easily fall back in the old patterns. So the thing where you need to repeat again and again, and go over the same things with different eyes, and maybe first time you understood, but then it's difficult to put it in practice and change your behavior. And maybe the next time you are able to identify yourself in this old pattern, and then you change. And every time you go over, you become better in identifying the pattern faster and changing the behavior faster. So it's a process that requires a lot of time and patience and experience. So you need to experience it over and over again. It's
Yeah.
not coming like from one day to the other. I got it, and then you're good.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That was the very same thing with my journey with the health coach who I also had on this podcast, Matt. He was like, "Hey, Jordan, you're going to go after you work with me, and there's going to be new challenges, and it's going to be very easy to fall back into old patterns. But most of the work we did together, it was such a good coaching experience for me, because it was like strengthening me to be able to go
Mhm,
ahead. And because one of the things I told him at the end is that I feel very confident that I can like maintain now, and I
mhm.
can kind of deal with life's challenges, versus he could have come in and said like, Jordan, you need to do this in 90 days to lose weight and to be like the healthiest you've ever been. Do this exactly. But what's going to happen when he when we leave and we don't work together anymore, I'm going to go right back into old patterns. As much as I would love to say, I'm awesome, I won't do that. I will, because of the short term, like, attack at something, I guess. There's probably a better way to say that, but
Yeah.
um, it's the long term that stuff will stick. So,
Yeah.
and what would you say is the hardest lesson you've had to learn as a coach?
Uh, I think for me, sometimes it's difficult because I acknowledge that I'm also still myself on my own journey. And
Yeah.
sometimes, when something that the client is bringing up resonates so much with me, and maybe it's something that is still, I'm not saying triggering me, but that it's creating a sort of emotional response within myself, that I'm not able to be fully present for the client because I'm still feeling a bit involved in my own things. That's, I think, especially in the beginning, it was much harder for me to separate myself. And now I think I'm much better. So I still recognize that, oh, there is still something going on for me on this topic, maybe, and I need to address it. And I'm still getting coached by other coaches to progress on my own journey. But I think nowadays I'm much better in, I became much better in identifying when that is happening, and I can take good care of my client and of myself. Just, thinking, okay, I know that I need to address still this with my own coach.
Hmm. And speaking of your own coach, has there been anything that, so first of all, with that, like, what areas have you been coached in yourself? Then I'm very curious. And then how has that helped you kind of with your own coaching practice, like to figure certain things out or improve how you do things with clients? Or is there anything specific you can think of with that? So two-part question there for you.
Yeah, that's a lot to say.
Yeah. You can start with the first one, then I'll try to remember I'll lead you to the next one.
So I experienced coaching myself before becoming a coach.
Hmm.
Let's say my first coaching experience has been more than 10 years ago, and I've been through different coaching engagements, also with different coaches. And I think for me, what I was struggling the most was more my personal life rather than the professional life. So that was the area that I was trying to address and develop myself in. But then it said, when I became a people leader, I, became interested in practicing coaching as a people leader to develop my team members. And then I went through other coaching engagements when I started my coaching training because we had this peer coaching exchange. And so that was also very helpful to see other coaching styles, maybe, but also I could get, a coaching session whenever I felt like I need it.
Okay.
So coaching was always available to me. So
Okay. Wow.
even
That's
if
great.
I wasn't in a specific coaching engagement, I could tap into coaching at any time, maybe for a very specific situation or type of things. This is also something that I wanted to share. Yeah, and then the other important point that I wanted to mention is when I discovered to be a highly sensitive person, I felt the need. I need to get coaching support, but not just a generic coach, but
Yeah.
someone who is specialized in high sensitivity. And so I did find one, and that was super, super helpful because actually was kind of that one was kind of a mix of. So I had 10 sessions with this coach, and it was a mix, and she alternated like coaching sessions and sort of teaching sessions about high sensitivity. So I could progress very well, in the awareness and knowledge about high sensitivity, as well as applying the new knowledge to my specific situation. And for me, it was really about, okay, now that I know I'm highly sensitive, I want to look back my entire life and see it through the lens of high
Yeah.
sensitivity. And the same thing looking forward, now that I know what different choices do I want to make for my life and for myself, and that was a big thing. And actually, this is when I then decided to quit my corporate career and to go fully into coaching.
Amazing. I always like have a little like in my head, I'm like, yes, someone quit their corporate, it's always like a little like, yes, they, you pursued like what you were really feeling. And
Yeah.
that's amazing.
So
Congrats
in
on
that
that.
case, coaching for me was really key to being able to connect to myself and to my
Hmm.
purpose, and really understand, okay, this is what I want to do for myself for the next chapter of my life. And that was very clear. And
Yeah.
so once the things become clear, then it's easier, to do the operational part of it, like taking decision and progress towards your
Yeah.
goal.
Yeah. And if there are any coaches listening to this that are like, I think I might be sensitive, I
Uh-huh.
might be a highly sensitive person, but they're not sure. How do they know? Is it through a conversation with you? Is it through like some kind of assessment?
Yes.
Or is it like a series of questions or thought experiments? Or like what would people go through?
So I can say there are a couple of official self-assessments, so which are based upon scientific research.
Okay.
So I'm not, providing any test that I created myself because
Yeah.
I rely on the
Yeah.
official
Yeah.
one. And the other thing I want to mention is that there are only self-assessment, so there is no diagnosis for high
Okay.
sensitivity. So you can go and these are a list of statements, and you need to rate yourself, and say how much of this statement is true for you, and on a scale from 1 to 7, and then you will get, the results. And it's important also to mention that it's not that either you are highly sensitive or you are not. So
Okay.
sensitivity is like on a spectrum.
Okay.
So, and then in the spectrum, they divided the population in 30%, about 30% is a highly sensitive, and 40% is mid-sensitive, and another 30% is less or low sensitive. But sensitivity, everyone is sensitive
To
at
some
some
extent.
degree.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's this is also something to keep in mind. And so the self-assessment measure your tendency towards high sensitivity, and there can be also differences among highly sensitive people. So there are certain things in common, but then, for example, if you think about the sensory sensitivity, right? I'm very much sensitive to light and sounds, but maybe other people are more sensitive to smell. So it's not that, there aren't two highly sensitive people alike. Everyone then has their own specificity. But back to your question. So, first of all, they can do the self assessment, but with a caveat, because I noticed that there are highly sensitive people that have been so much disconnected from their sensitivity. When they go and do the self assessment, they are not rating themselves for what they truly are, but they rate themselves for what they know and the adapted version of themselves.
Hmm.
So this is something that it's also important to keep in mind, and this is why I think a conversation would also be very, very helpful, because you can dig deeper in certain situation and try to understand. And sometimes it's kind of obvious from the very first time that you talk to people, but other times it's really hard, and you need more time. So sometimes it doesn't truly matter to know for sure I'm highly sensitive or not. If you feel like there is something with you that you want to address or look at, and there is a good chemistry with me and we want to work together, that's a good way to get started. And maybe
Hmm.
you can discover at a later point, and get this awareness. Yes, now I think I am highly sensitive, or maybe I'm mid sensitive, and it's okay. I mean, it's not,
Hmm.
it's just about understanding how your brain operates, basically, and how your nervous system operates, because they are connected.
Oh, for sure. I was thinking, are there any like tips or strategies that you would share to coaches that maybe working with highly sensitive people that could help them kind of have better conversations or to dig a little bit more? Are there any, yeah, top level, like easily applicable, just very general strategies that might work?
As said, I think all the work about nervous system regulation is super helpful for highly sensitive people.
Hmm.
And also the, let's say, somatic work and being able to connect emotions to your body sensations. This is also very, very helpful. I guess this is helpful for anyone, not just for highly sensitive people. So maybe a recommendation to other coaches could be just to be aware that high sensitivity exists and what does that mean, and be highly sensitive informed. So to know this
Yeah.
thing is real and it exists. And I think just offering this possibility to their clients, it's already, something that could be really, really helpful.
Yeah, I definitely can see that being super helpful because just think of all the different like people are so different, and like we get all kinds of different people that we work with, and of course, like a lot of us as coaches have our clients that we're like, oh, these are the ones I really like to work with. But then it's good to push yourself a little bit and to think about, okay, maybe there's certain people that I haven't had as much success with. Why? Maybe I'm ignoring parts of like high sensitivity or whatever the factor is. Maybe I could understand them a little bit better. Like you said, be a little bit more aware of its effects as well. But it's like how to get better at coaching different types of people too. Is to be aware of all of these different, really how people are different. So yeah. What would you say your most successful strategy has been for growing your coaching business and finding more clients? Or yeah,
I'm still on my journey
sure. Me
because
too.
as,
We all
as
are, I
said,
think.
I started quite recently,
Yeah.
and I decided to go online and start. I started posting on LinkedIn back in December 2025.
Great. It's a
Because
great place to be.
there are different opinions. Like you can go fully online, or you can go fully like not online and just get your clients in different
Yeah.
ways. I decided to go online, and with online, I mean just LinkedIn. I don't use any other social platform, even not privately, and so LinkedIn was the only one where I had an active profile. But my profile was just the profile with my curriculum, static curriculum. And so I really started from scratch 6 months ago, and I'm seeing already an evolution since I started. I try to be, how you say, I'm publishing 3 times per week, so to be, how you say,
Consistent.
consistent.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You got it.
That was the word that I was looking for. To be
Yeah. 3 times a
consistent.
week is great.
Yeah, 3 times per week, and also, to reach out to people. So this took me a while. In the beginning, I wasn't so much proactive, and very recently I started, being proactive and starting conversation with people that maybe I've seen that they are supporting my post with the reaction or commenting my post, and so. Sometimes that they want to, so when you start a conversation, they really want to talk and go deeper. Maybe they ask you for a call, and this is great. And other people you see like, okay, thank you, and that's it. So, but I think it's really about creating connections.
Hmm.
So really putting yourself in that space where you can serve other people, and you can create a true connection with them, like nurturing the relationship so that they can trust you and learn from your content. So I think this is also very important to bring something meaningful into the platform.
Yeah. And would you say that would be a recommendation for someone starting their own coaching business now? Would you recommend like, hey, get on LinkedIn and with that, is there anything else that you would recommend to someone that is just starting out? Maybe something that you wished you had known a year and a half ago or yeah.
Yeah, I think, I in the beginning I really wanted to have a website,
Hmm.
and so I spent quite a lot of time and effort in building my own website, which I'm glad I do have. But for me, it was more like, oh, if I do have a website, I feel like I have more authority, and people can find my website and see me there, and this is the full picture of who I am and what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. Fine. But I think the website is still very static compared to LinkedIn. So if someone is starting from scratch now, I would rather recommend focus on your LinkedIn profile, start posting regularly, and start engaging in conversation with people and see, because with the conversation, you can even refine your messaging and you can redefine your niche. Especially for the ones that are not super clear about their niche in the beginning, I would say talking to people is the best way to niche down and narrow down.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. Like that's the way you figure things out. I totally resonate with that because when I was starting out, I was very much like website focused and doing all of those things that didn't matter as much as now as like being on LinkedIn and for the purpose of exactly what you said, like making connections and having conversations because that's where I've learned the most and gotten out of my like isolation as like a writer that I used to be in. Let's say like even 4 years ago, I was still in that like very
Uh-huh.
much in my own bubble, working things, trying my best, of course, but like not expanding my
Yeah.
horizons with things. And
Yeah.
like once I started on LinkedIn, once I started like one of my things was bravely having new conversations with people and like that's one of the reasons I love doing this podcast too. It's a challenge for me, but it's great to have these conversations and to just talk to people for the first time sometimes doing this. And it's good because that's how you meet people. That's how you build the connection. So yeah, I love what you're saying there because like 100% agree. That's where to start. Your
Yeah.
website looks great, by the way.
Thank you.
Looks really nice. I just opened it up while we were talking.
No, thank you. There's another thing that I wanted to mention because I think that was not super clear to me in the beginning, which being a coach and developing your own business are two completely different things.
Hmm. Hmm.
Like all the business development activities and the marketing activities and the sales activities, these are new, at least for me, were new competencies and skills that I had to build and I'm still building. So and I feel like that was not super clear to me at the beginning because I didn't know anything about it. So that was completely new. And I think in the beginning you need to be patient and kind to yourself and allow yourself the time to learn and to maybe also make mistakes and then understand things your way. You cannot think, oh, I don't know, I take a course or a training and then I'm good to go, and my business
Exactly.
will ramp up like in a few months. It doesn't work that way.
Oh, and again, that's the other reason for me to have that. It's very important, like we said, to have these conversations with people, because like every time you talk to someone on LinkedIn about what you do, that's another time to talk about what you do. Every time like, you talk to someone in person, they say, "Hey, Jordan, what do you do?" and you're able to answer that with confidence. That helps you on those sales conversations because that's what sales is. How can I help this person? But it means, am I talking confidently about what I do and all of those things? And I think like I used to underestimate that as well in thinking how important that was. But you gain so much. Like every time you jump on a call with someone, every
Yeah.
time someone asks you a question about what you do, even if you heard it 100 times, I've answered that question 100 times. I'm still improving how I answer it based on
Yes.
the real live feedback that people give you if you're paying attention. So,
Yeah, and I have to add to that that the online presence is great because you can reach so many people. But I'm also trying to do something locally, like in terms of networking events or
hmm,
coffee chats with the local people. I think this is also very helpful for exactly for the reason that you just mentioned, that talking to people and maybe sitting over lunch or over coffee, you can really go into this type of conversation when you can really redefine your messaging and learn out of that conversation. Even if that person is not becoming a client, that
hmm,
very same day or not even maybe the next month or the next year, but you can still leverage a lot from that conversation in terms of how you create your content and how you speak about yourself and your messages. So yeah.
yeah, no, 100% absolutely agree with that. That's amazing. And we're getting close to the end of this
Yeah.
podcast episode, but I always want to give people a chance to say whatever is on their heart and mind. So if there's something you came in with, you're like, oh, I really want to share that about whatever, now's your time to share that with us. If there's anything, it
Yeah.
doesn't have to be anything.
Thank you. No, I think we have been covering quite a lot also about high sensitivity, which is very close now to my heart. And maybe
Hmm.
the thing that I wanted to add is so beside working one-on-one with people and coaching them, I think it's really important to raise awareness on high sensitivity, especially in the working environment, and especially in for highly senior leaders. So I think because there is still this narrative that high sensitivity is seen as a weakness, and either people think by themselves, "Oh, I'm not good for leadership because I'm highly sensitive and because I'm weak," which is not a true equation,
Not
you know.
true. Yeah.
Exactly. So this is my point. I really want to raise awareness about high sensitivity, and also go maybe to companies and do webinars or workshops just to raise that awareness and make people understand that we need to respect our diversities and to leverage whatever the diversity is bringing up for us. So changing the narrative that high sensitivity is not a weakness, but could also be a strategic asset in leadership, especially if you are truly connected to your sensitivity and you know what it is about and how to integrate it into your leadership style.
Yeah. I love that. I love that idea of leveraging the diversity too and not looking at it as a weakness, but something that can really propel you, and that's the strength you're going to be relying
Yeah.
upon. I think that's fantastic.
Yeah.
And a last question: where can people find you? I know we talked about LinkedIn, so LinkedIn is a place to
Yeah.
find you
Sure.
for sure. And then
And the other place is, as I mentioned, my website, which is www.thehighlyensitivecoach.com.
amazing. I'll make sure to have those links in the show. But
Yeah,
yeah,
sure.
thank you so much for joining us here today. It's been a lovely chatting with you.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure chatting with you. Thank you.
Are you still here listening to this podcast? You're awesome. I got two CTAs for you. Number one, subscribe to this podcast for more. And number two, have you ever thought about writing a book? Contact Jordan. He can help you out. Jordan at jamring.com.